I feel like as you're talking, it's like you're writing a treatment. It's like you're writing a script. It's awesome. It's just awesome the way you see it, you know?
Well, look, there are many forms of art. Whether you could pick something, you could be a sculptor, a painter. In my pantheon, and this is my opinion, there are no greater artists than musicians, for me. Because I think musicians are the closest to God. I will take a great musician over any other great artist in any other art form, for me.
You said musicians are the closest to God, not to become all religious, but, and
I'm talking about the highest of the high.
yeah, right after that God, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the truth, but I was just gonna say that, like, I know that, like, the highest of all angels was Satan, and he was in charge of music, just so you know.
Well, there is some devil in some types of music, and a lot of times people said that jazz was a devil's music.
Yeah, but
You
I
know?
don't agree with that.
I mean, we've had so many artists who were torn, who grew up in the church.
Yeah.
But with Sam Cooke, Otis Redding,
Yeah,
Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye,
yeah,
who even Marvin Gaye to his demise by getting shot by his father, had this think about how they're gonna make the music they're singing fit in with their spirituality, because they're singing
about secular stuff.
Yes.
But let me tell you
Yeah,
what's so funny about that. See, in Virginia, they used to play this music in the church. it was, and especially at the church I was going to at the time, because I was
Baptist church.
Well, my mom's church was Baptist. My dad's church was Pentecostal.
Okay.
So the music was
forget about it.
completely different. So, but the Baptist music, I was like, well, y'all don't want us listening to this, and you don't want us listening to that, but what is this? So when I grew up and, you know, did a little bit more research, I realized that in that particular community, not all Baptist churches, Black Baptist churches across America, because I wasn't there, I can only tell you about ours. In the Baptist church, I realized that they were playing music that had grooves that sounded like the secular stuff that they used to dance to before they got saved.
Yep.
And it kept
It's
going
all
on and on and on.
connected.
And then you look back in the like earlier 1900s and you see things where like they would tell them like, don't listen to this and don't listen to that. But then the music that they were doing was, again, just borrowed. So every generation, another 10 years later,
I mean,
the
look
people
where
get
jazz
saved
was
and then
born.
take their
Jazz
era
was
with
pl-
them
jazz
and
was played
write
in the
Christian
whorehouses
songs.
of New Orleans, you
Right.
know, and then it just spread out. You know, that's the devil's music.
That's crazy to me. What's interesting is there's an art form that sort of tells you a history of where the music is coming from within the church. Totally influenced by 10 years before, but in the secular world.
What was your first instrument you played?
Drums,
Did you play it in the school band,
yes.
marching band?
And in the church.
See, let's talk about this. I'm a little older than you, but I'm a product of New York City Public School, from kindergarten to John Dewey High School in Coney Island. My generation, generations before me, art was a requirement. You had to take art. You had to play an instrument. My instrument was a recorder, because I was the easiest one to play. You had to take gym. You had to. Nowadays, the United States of America is a generation of young people that don't have, not being taught art, not being taught music, and gym classes are cut out. So we have people, young people who are obese, are totally ignorant about music and art.
Well, I think the music and the art is changing now that we have the internet. And I think the thing is my issue is always with the government. You know what I mean? Like, to me,
Well, they're the
to
ones
me,
they're the
teachers-
ones making the cuts. So these programs being ripped out of public schools all across the country.
Right. And you know what's happening? The kids are turning to the internet and they're getting all their lessons. I mean, you can learn anything you want now. And for me, I'm not saying that's the best policy in the world, but I love that the technology has superseded the government's stronghold that they had on society, the way they controlled it. They do control it in a lot of ways, but the internet has given us so much freedom.
You know, I understand that's true, but
We need it in the educational. We need it in
technology
the
only gives
educational
so much,
system.
where you have technology is not going to be that
You're right.
That old piano teacher.
You're totally right.
Who would teach you.
You need the energy in the room.
Son, that's the wrong note.
That's right.
And be on you. You gotta practice.
That's right.
You gotta practice.
That's
what we're missing.
That's right. Technology will never be able to mimic the
We're the same
ability
thing.
of two humans like bonding for sure. The energy is a whole nother layer.
But this is better than nothing.
Right.
Right there.
And you know, there'll be a time where like they're gonna see that they're gonna have to, because everything that is invented was created, unless it's, you know, organic, by us. And that's the key.
This is part of it.
Sure.
Thank you.
So let me ask you a question, since we're talking about school, right? Let's talk about like you and your first year in film
NYU?
in grad school.
Uh-huh.
You did The Answer.
Right. Oh.
That caused some controversy with the faculty, right?
Right.
What was their issue?
Well, at NYU, it's a 3-year program, and back then, and when you're in film school, you get graded on your films. You're not taking tests. The faculty sits in the theater, it's called the bijou. You sit in the theater, the faculty sits in the theater, and they decide who stays, who goes, because they would get rid of half the class. And so my film, The Answer, was about a young African-American screenwriter, director, who's being hired by a major studio to make the big budget of D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation, one of the most racist films ever. And at NYU, they showed the film, and they talked about all the great innovations that D.W. Griffith came up with. He's also called the father of cinema, but they never talked about how this film was used as a recruiting tool for the Klan and was responsible for black people getting lynched. So the faculty took that like I was attacking the father of cinema. So they kicked me out.
Wow.
But I forgot who it was. I was never told who it was, to be honest. Someone said, we can't kick him out. And I said, why? Because we gave him a TA ship for next year already. I worked in the equipment room.
Wow.
And I was the hardest worker in there. And so they rewarded me for that. But they did it too early.
Wow.
So it gave me my TA ship for next year before the evaluations.
Wow.
Now, here's another thing, how God works. If the evaluations would come first before they award me a TA ship, I'd have been kicked out of school.
Wow. But the process saved you.
Somebody fucked up.
That's awesome. No, somebody did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
There are no accidents and no
Yeah.
mistakes, right?
I was out. They didn't like that film. Like, you gotta go. Now they don't kick you out. But back then they did. They would get rid of half of the first year class.
That's crazy.
Now I teach there. And I'm also artistic director of the school, of the graduate film school too.
It's so cool, man. Thank you, Spike
No,
Lee.
thank you, man. Peace.
This is Artist Talk. I don't have to say his name. I'm gonna be doing something with him.
Speezy. He went up to her and said, I've been looking for you for the past 2,000 years. She said, Negro, you're crazy, and walked away.
Why does that just feel like a opening to a film?
It does. He was serious too. So for 3 years I was struggling, trying to get my first feature made. I was pen to paper, writing letters, no email.
You know, we were hearing that music. It was so rebellious. It was pushing buttons that you didn't even know.
Elvis was a hero to most.
And then that would make us go and read and figure out what he had done.
Right. Denzel works. A year before we started to shoot, he told his agent, I'm not working anymore. He prepared a year for that role.